to my mind, if you only took away one thing from the hearing today, it was this next exchange between Jack Smith and a Vermont congresswoman named Becca Balint. It was an exchange about basically what it means to be Jack Smith right now in 2026, to have done the investigation that he did, to have found what he found, to have served your country by sticking to your guns, even when that meant the leader of the United States government and his party and his supporters would try to destroy you for it.
Trump has said that you, Mr. Smith, should be investigated and put in prison. He called you a disgrace to humanity, a radical left Marxist, a criminal. In fact, Trump has used the words deranged Jack Smith 185 times on Truth Social. How do you think that these statements have impacted you, your staff, and your investigation?
With respect to me, I think the statements are meant to intimidate me. I will not be intimidated. I think these statements are also made as a warning to others what will happen if they stand up. And I am, as I say, I'm not going to be intimidated. We did our work pursuant to department policy. We followed the facts and we followed the law, and that process resulted in proof beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed serious crimes. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen because he's threatening me.
And Mr. Smith, do you believe that President Trump's Department of Justice will find some way to indict you?
I believe that they will do everything in their power to do that because they've been ordered to by the president.
Jack Smith, I will not be intimidated. I'm not going to pretend those serious crimes didn't happen just because he's threatening me. As I said before, I will not be intimidated. Nicole Wallace, what did you take from this hearing today?
Well, what I took from my own reaction was that this was so extraordinary. But before Trump destroyed the Department of Justice, there were hundreds of Jack Smiths inside the Department of Justice. He was the archetype of the kind of person who chose that life instead of, being a partner at Paul Weiss and having multiple houses and occasionally flying private. I mean, this is what DOJ was made of. So what I thought about was how successful Trump's been in moving the Overton window, but I watched this with a lump in my throat, thinking about, nostalgically, about what the department was. The other thing I thought of was he is the most senior Justice Department official to defend what we kind of shorthand as rank and file. But the people that have been purged from the Justice Department were the best of the best. The most senior prosecutors, the most senior FBI agents who have been pilloried reputationally, threatened legally, face death threats, by and large, if they've been named and outed and smeared in the right-wing press. And they have hollowed out the Department of Justice. Merrick Garland hasn't defended those people. Lisa Monaco hasn't defended those people. Joe Biden hasn't defended those people. Today, Jack Smith, right after that clip you played, described the real danger in the threats and efforts to intimidate him to his team. And he really defended the integrity of the work they did. And I think some of what sinks in when you watch this is that we're all here today because this is extraordinary. We all know that this doesn't happen inside the Justice Department. No one says what he said today to the public in that Congress to Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche or Emil Bove. And if they did, if Danielle Sassoon or Liz Oyer or any of those people did, they've been asked to leave.
That's right. Which is the dark and terrible side of the Justice Department professional ethic that says if you are asked to do something unprofessional or wrong, you resign. We have seen people resigning like whole forests of them falling all at once. And what it means is that the Justice Department, as you say, doesn't have those folks in it anymore.
That's right. And what is so, I think, painful about this is not that just Jack Smith's work that he did on behalf of not a president, not a party, but on behalf of the country. Yeah. He worked for the country. He was a taxpayer-funded prosecutor who came out of a different post to do this extraordinary job at a point in time when there was literally nothing to be gained. And as he stated at the end, he faces threats and harm, and he's all but certain he will be indicted. They will attempt to prosecute him because Donald Trump wants them to. That not only did he not succeed in bringing a case he knew he could prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury, but he will be punished for it.
Yeah.
Okay. In any other world, in any other news cycle, in any other administration, the president of the United States saying this on the world stage would be huge, blaring, front page, you couldn't avoid it kind of news.
Usually they say he's a horrible dictator type person. I'm a dictator. But sometimes you need a dictator.
Now, that of course was the man who currently occupies the Oval Office saying sometimes you need a dictator and basically owning up to being one. A profoundly, doesn't matter how many times he says it, disturbing sentiment from the man who's supposed to be leading the world's most powerful democracy. So why didn't that statement dominate all the headlines today? We hear her talking about it, but why didn't it dominate the headlines? Well, in part because we already know he sees himself as a dictator based on his tyrannical approach to governing, and also because on the same day at the World Economic Forum in Davos, when he proudly owned up to being a dictator, his shocking disconnection from reality was also on full display in the speech. I mean, today before an audience of world leaders, Trump rambled for over an hour, railing against our allies, including the host nation of Switzerland, insulting Joe Biden, lamenting that windmills are losers, and also reiterating his plans to take over Greenland. Of course, Trump has been obsessed with the idea of the U.S. taking control of Greenland for nearly a decade. The man has been fixated on it since his first term. I mean, Donald Trump has given more thought to annexing Greenland, I think it's safe to say, than he has given to most geopolitical issues. Which is why it was so remarkable when today, Donald Trump could not seem to remember exactly which territory he has long been completely obsessed with annexing.
I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right, last time. A very smart man said, he's our daddy. He's running it. I was like running it. I went from running it to being a terrible human being. But now what I'm asking for is a piece of ice, cold and poorly located, that can play a vital role in world peace and world protection.
Hey, Daddy, I have a question.
Okay, if you did not see this game live, then I'm sure you've seen the clips by now. 22-year-old quarterback Fernando Mendoza led the Indiana Hoosiers through an undefeated season, a national championship, and won the Heisman Trophy. This after being barely recruited, just a two-star prospect and a third string at his previous college. My next guest, author Brad Stulberg, wrote of Mendoza the following. In an era where people are afraid to be called cringe, Mendoza led the Indiana Hoosiers' historic turnaround with his heart on his sleeve and a captivating earnestness. I want to welcome Brad Stulberg. He wrote the new book, The Way of Excellence, a guide to true greatness and deep satisfaction in a chaotic world. Brad, we need these lessons. We need this book. This young man is now a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. What can we learn from him?
Oh, there's so much to learn. I think the first and foremost thing is that excellence is not a standard as much it is a process of becoming. And that process of becoming is when you care deeply about something, a worthwhile pursuit that aligns with your values and goals, and you throw your all into that process. And in the pursuit of your goals, you're not just working on the goal, but the goal is working on you. It's shaping your character.
He is not a human doing. He is a human being. You have said that he is not scared to be seen as caring. Talk about that. Why do you think it's important?
It's so important. We live in an era of nonchalance where many people feign this too cool to care attitude. But I think what's actually going on is that there's an insecurity or a fear. Because when we care deeply about something, we expose ourselves to all the risks of the inevitable failures that we will suffer along the way. But if we never care deeply about something, if we're never earnest, if we never pour our all into something, then we miss out on so much of the joy and the satisfaction and the texture of pursuing big goals, and we'll never get the most out of ourselves. So you've got to care deeply. Caring is cool.
It's like my son's telling me that being a try-hard is a bad thing. And I'm like, I thought trying hard was an excellent thing. But a lot of people sort of think, especially right now in this sort of political moment, that you need alpha energy to be the best, to achieve excellence. That is not the reality, is it?
Periods of global uncertainty often give rise to ambitious proposals aimed at reshaping cooperation and stability. During high-profile gatherings, leaders sometimes present bold initiatives designed to project confidence, restore order, or redefine how collective problem-solving should occur. These moments tend to generate strong reactions, not only because of the ideas themselves, but because of what they suggest about leadership, authority, and the future direction of collaboration. At the launch of a newly announced international initiative, its architect described the current global environment as more secure and prosperous than in the recent past. The initiative was presented as a landmark effort framed as one of the most influential cooperative bodies ever proposed. Such language immediately set a high bar for expectations, signaling that the initiative was intended to play a major role rather than function as a limited or temporary mechanism. The original concept behind the initiative was relatively narrow, focusing on supporting a pause in hostilities and encouraging recovery in a specific context. Over time, however, its envisioned role expanded significantly. Rather than remaining focused on a single objective, the initiative was described as having the potential to address a wide range of challenges related to stability, governance, and long-term peace across multiple regions. This expansion marked a clear shift from a targeted effort to a broad, systemic ambition. Questions naturally followed about how this new body would interact with existing international frameworks. Some observers wondered whether it was intended to complement long-standing institutions or potentially replace them. When asked directly about this possibility, the initiative's sponsor did not rule it out, suggesting that overlap or transformation could occur. This ambiguity added to both interest and concern, as it implied a possible reordering of established norms. Participation became a central focus. A group of early supporters formally endorsed the initiative during its launch, signaling alignment with its goals and leadership structure. Additional participants were expected to consider joining over time, reinforcing the idea that the initiative aimed for broad reach. At the same time, invitations were extended to a wide range of actors, including some whose involvement prompted debate among observers. Not all reactions were positive. Some potential participants expressed hesitation, choosing not to commit immediately. Their concerns centered on the initiative's scope, governance, and implications for existing cooperative systems. Rather than rejecting the concept outright, these voices emphasized the need for further discussion and clarity before making a decision. This cautious approach reflected a desire to balance openness to innovation with respect for established processes. The situation became more complex when an invitation that had previously been extended was later withdrawn. This reversal drew attention not only to the decision itself, but also to how participation was being managed. The language used to communicate the withdrawal emphasized prestige and exclusivity, framing the initiative as selective and highly controlled. For some observers, this reinforced concerns about centralization of authority and unpredictability. Such developments highlighted a recurring challenge in international coordination efforts. Ambition can generate momentum, but sustained cooperation depends on trust, consistency, and clear expectations. Sudden shifts in engagement can prompt participants to reassess their level of comfort and commitment, especially when long-term involvement is implied. Communication style played a significant role in shaping perceptions. Strong declarations of success and authority projected confidence, but they also raised questions about inclusivity and openness to dissenting views.